All right, I'm just testing our levels. All right, I think we are good. So here we go. Welcome, everyone. So she was 18 years old and she closed her first real estate sale while in high school. And basically today she's a superstar agent and now coach. She was basically the first agent in all of Century 21 to win their Hall of Fame award. We're going to find out exactly today how she built her business, what she's learned from 100,000 private coaching calls with realtors across the country, about what separates agents who break through from the ones who stay stuck. I want to introduce everyone to Debbie DeGrote. Debbie is amazing. She sold her first home, like I said, at the age of 18. And within just a few short years, she became one of the top real estate agents in the nation. On her own, with just one assistant, she consistently was closing over 150 homes a year. Again, just her, and went on to sell more than 3,000 homes in her career. She later launched offices, she built high performance teams, and wrote strategic growth plans for major brokerages. And over the last 25 years, she's pivoted and become one of the most respected coaches for realtors in North America. And she actually works not just with realtors, with other business execs as well. She has led over 100,000 private coaching calls, speaking on some of the industry's biggest stages and working with top teams, agents, broker owners who really are looking to dominate in any market. Today, she is the founder and CEO of Forward Coaching, known for its custom high-level coaching designed for serious professionals who want serious results. I want everybody to follow her on Facebook. That is facebook.com/forward coaching. We'll have a link to that in the show notes. And as a special thank you to our audience, Debbie has very generously provided our audience with a negotiations course free of charge. So I want you all to check that out. We will have a link to that as well in the show notes. Please go there and download that. Debbie, welcome to the show.
Well, this will be fun. I love talking to awesome real estate professionals. That is my favorite thing to do.
Well, let's jump right in. So you've described your clients as puzzles, which I love.
Yes.
Trying to figure out their goals, their fears, the specific question that is underneath the question, right? So most coaches I talk to say they help agents grow, but you're describing something different. What exactly are you doing in the first coaching conversation that most coaches just miss?
You know, it's interesting that I was very lucky at the age of 18. I had an awesome broker who was just an incredible salesperson and negotiator. So he got me started right away out of the gate of what is their personality? What is their culture? How do they communicate? You know, why are they annoying to you? Are they annoying to you because you just don't understand and are not selling them the way they want to be sold? And I feel that that early instruction led to a lot of real estate sales success, but it also just created this fascination and this passion, if you will, for really taking someone and saying, you know, like you said, what is their motivation? What is their purpose? What are their goals? How do they prefer to learn? And I did spend the first 13 years of coaching, building and running a coaching company for someone else who did not operate in that way. And not, you know, saying that they were bad. It was just different. It was very cookie cutter, very curriculum based. In fact, he would often say from stage, don't tell me your story. Don't tell me your market's different. I don't want to hear it. Just basically get in the box and do what I say, which did create some success for some people. None of what he told them to do was bad. But what I noticed is it didn't create the highest level of success or even happiness or enjoyment in the business. So I said, well, if I want to do it a different way, I got to go do my own thing. And that's why here at Forward, we're dedicated to that custom coaching. So DJ, I would look you up, find out everything I could about you that's out there, you know, in the world online about your real estate career. Then we would ask you to fill out a coaching questionnaire. We would ask you to do a DISC assessment. We use that as an awesome tool. It's a very simple tool, but it tells us a lot about your personality, your strengths, maybe some gaps. And then when I get into that first session, my question really is, what do you want to accomplish in this meeting? What are you specifically feeling you're very good at? And where do you feel there's some gaps and opportunities? And then just as I listen, take extensive notes, gather that info, the puzzle starts to come together, right? Which is really fun and exciting. I love it.
Yeah, I love that as well. And I've interviewed hundreds of top 1% agents on this show over the years. Almost all of them, and the only reason I'm saying almost is because I probably didn't ask everybody if they had a coach, but
Mhm.
everyone that I asked if they had a coach who's a top 1% producer said they had one.
Mhm.
And so it is kind of an interesting thing. We think, well, I'm at a lower level right now. I'm newer to the business. I
Mhm.
don't have the ability, or maybe I think I don't have the income to be able to afford a coach. Yet, getting a coach is really going to take you to that next level. So, what would you say to somebody who has that concern about, hey, I want to hire a coach. I think there's value there, but I'm not sure I can afford it.
Yeah, and it's, never our goal here to break the bank for someone. So that's why part of that conversation is never, I don't have guys on, guys or ladies on the sales floor selling people like in a boiler room. That's not our style. That's why it's a conversation. And I would look with that person and say, well, it is a business investment. If you are going into any other career, if you went to law school, and then if you're going to be a chiropractor, I mean, whatever it is that you might do, there's a business investment. So I would ask, let's have just a good conversation about where would you be able to find the money to invest? Would that make sense for you at this point? And what potentially should you expect as your return on investment? Now, if they truly do not have the money, my suggestion would be go on my webinars, right? They're free, they're every week. I teach as much as I can, and then they can do a few deals and then circle back to us. So we just consider them friends in the community. If they can eventually afford to invest, wonderful. And if not, I put out a lot of free content out. I mean, the negotiations course today, we normally sell it for about $1,000, but I often will give things away like that to groups because I feel I need to give back, right? Whether they pay us or not. Lots of people poured into me over the years. So got to give back.
Yeah, you are incredibly generous. And thank you for providing that negotiation course to our audience. If you haven't yet downloaded it, go to the description, click the link, fill out the form, and you will get that $1,000 course. And then give a nice thank you to Debbie and her team. Follow them on Facebook because they are doing us a huge solid. And so thank you for that. I want to sort of share, I want to talk about kind of well, I don't know if it's a dirty secret, but it's something that a lot of agents don't know about the coaching business because there's a lot of
Mhm.
real estate coaching companies out there. A lot of them, sad to say, really go through a cookie cutter approach, right? They
Right.
sort of have their sort of stock ways of uh, coaching someone, training someone, and you guys don't do that. You're very custom
Mhm.
oriented, and the industry kind of told you like that's not going to work. You're not going to be able to
They did.
scale a business in a custom way, and you proved them wrong. So, what were you seeing that made you decide to go the custom route for every single client?
Well, I noticed that when I was at the other company and I had a roster of my own coaching clients, and when I used the custom approach, they would often, very often, if they did the work, of course, double their business in the first year. And then they would stay. They would stay for years and years and years, which, by the way, I still have some of those clients who are, mega superstars, and it's now 25 years later, because they continue to grow. And I do give them all the credit. They will do the work. So I thought there's definitely something very important here. And I made a decision that when others were saying you can't scale it, maybe they were talking about having thousands of people. Unfortunately, then what I saw is the revolving door of all the cancellations, the unhappiness, the complaints when they didn't get what they wanted from coaching. And I thought, I want to be large enough and successful. I also want more of that boutique 5-star. Everyone here in our team knows all of our clients' names. We know their birthdays. We celebrate their successes. We just are very involved with each client. They can call their coach. They can call me in between coaching sessions, no extra charge. They can text, they can email. So we really get into their world as their consultant, and therefore the retention is insanely high, and we get to work with them for a long period of time. So it just works for us. And it's actually, after this many years in the business, it is what I prefer and enjoy. So I guess it's a little selfish too.
Well, selfish with a very altruistic outcome, because they're only going to work with you if you're getting them the desired results that they want, which means you do have to customize to each one of those top producers or people on their way up to becoming top producers. Okay, I want to give our audience a little bit of tough love. By the way, I am not excluded from this conversation, so I'm not a practicing agent myself, but I recruit agents for our company, and this applies to me just as it does to every one of our listeners. And we're going to talk about prospecting, and I know that it makes all of us a little itchy, and that's normal. And I'm with you, but we have to be honest, because I want to talk about what you were doing when you were 18, and this is remarkable. And I know if I did this in my business, so I will be super honest with everybody right now. So our business, we actually were down in recruiting last year in 2025, 28% our business went down. Now we have 700 agents. That doesn't sound so bad, but we had a lot of people leaving the industry because of the different changes and anyway, whatever. So I had to really step up my game in recruiting, and I didn't really hit the numbers I wanted. This year I'm committed to doing that. But I'm going to be honest and say I didn't prospect as much as I should have. But when you were 18, and I love this, you were prospecting 4 to 5 hours a day. Now, most agents today, they're not even going to do 4 or 5 minutes of prospecting, right? So when a client comes to you and they say they want results, but they don't want to prospect, what actually happens in that coaching relationship?
What I really, again, look at is what do they do well? Like right now, right here, we can see what you do well, right? Now, someone else that might be speaking to me that they don't have the skill to be on camera, to be on a microphone, to live in the world of social media. So what do they do well? Because what I've noticed is if I can at first identify where currently is the majority of their business coming from, no matter how well they do that, I always challenge myself to find the gaps, right? In fact, there was a great agent here. I took a chance. I was on stage speaking in Orange County. I knew he did a really terrific job managing his past client and sphere and got a lot of business from that. And I said to the audience, I can always find a gap. Well, let's check me and see. We brought him on stage. His name is Fred Said, brought him on stage. And I started having him explain to the audience everything he did to work that group. And it was outstanding. Everything he did was very systematic. And at the end I said, but Fred, I didn't hear you say that you actually call them at all or with any frequency. Well, yeah, see, that's the one thing I don't do, right? And so when we got a plan together for him to actually make calls, offering valuable content, not pushy, not aggressive, he doubled his repeat and referral business in a short period of time. So that's where I would like everyone listening, whether you hire a coach or not, and you're coaching yourself, go first to the things you do really, really well, and then just be honest.
Yeah.
Where are the gaps? And it's not negative, it's actually quite hopeful, because if you improve in those areas, you're going to get results really, really quickly. And DJ, I find most agents have one, two, maybe three things. We call them lead gen levers that they do when they really need more like five or six.
Yeah.
Because you see the ups and downs in the market that you and I have lived through. These two may not be paying off the way, well, past clients fear. Last 2 years, they did not pay off well because a lot of people on the fence. They will start to pay off better this year. But we needed those extra lead gen levers. So go to
Yeah.
what you do well and fix it and do it really well. And then add another, and then add another, and then add another.
I keep going back to this statement that I heard from Brian Tracy a million years ago.
Mm.
He basically said, prospecting solves all problems.
It
And
does.
I always thought, no, of course, that isn't true with a capital T, but it's true enough. And I think it's probably the hardest part for any of us because it involves rejection. It involves
Sure.
doing, look, going to the gym and getting fit isn't fun
Mhm.
either, right? But
Right.
saying no to the foods that we shouldn't eat because we want to get more healthy isn't fun either. Like all of these things are hard. And yet, this is why you get a coach. I was talking to one of my friends who is a Ironman triathlete,
Mm.
and he is also a top real estate agent. You would look at him and you would think his life is absolutely perfect, but I know him very well. And of course he has problems like anyone else.
Sure.
But I assumed around physical fitness, he was a Golden Glove boxer. I mean, this guy's really, really the pinnacle of physical fitness and competitiveness and health. I said, "Oh, Lawrence, I've been struggling with doing my lower body, my leg days." He goes, "DJ, every guy struggles with leg day." He goes, "I don't want to do leg day." And this is a guy who's got the most defined muscles I've ever seen. And I said, "Really?" And he goes, "Nobody wants to do leg day." So I said,
Mhm.
"Oh, good. I'm not alone." Right. So everybody wants to avoid some of these things that we know are
Sure.
good for us, but are hard. And hard things are hard. And that's where a coach comes in. And a
Mhm.
coach can actually get you through those hard moments. Again, I'm in the same boat. I put
Mhm.
off prospecting just like every one of our listeners. And mine's actually, I would argue that mine's actually even easier than what our listeners have to do when you have to call to get clients. I'm calling agents who are already at firms and basically saying, "Hey, we'd love to chat with you about joining our firm." You're calling people who might not even need your services for years and years, and
Right.
you're going to obviously, be dealing with some of those kind of responses. But I want to talk, I want to pivot a little bit because let's talk about the NAR settlement. So I want to switch
Mhm.
gears because it really did change how we communicate with buyers in particular.
Right.
And, the conversation changed overnight. Although for a lot of the people I've interviewed, it didn't actually change. A lot of them were like, I was doing this anyway, but a lot of
Exactly.
agents weren't. So you told Housing Wire that agents who were negotiating in a hot market, they really weren't negotiating. They were just accepting offers. So
Right.
what does a fundamentally unprepared agent actually look like when they sit across from a buyer now? And how do you fix that?
Yeah, it's interesting because 25, 30 years ago, I was using buyer broker agreements because I just got tired of disloyal buyers, right?
Sure.
And I felt like I needed a more defined process, and very few people in the country were doing it. It really wasn't a thing. But when this whole settlement happened, many of you listening to us, you probably felt the same way, like, oh my gosh, the sky is falling, the world is ending, this is going to be a disaster. And it wasn't. It wasn't a disaster. Most of our clients who, if they choose, because commission is negotiable by law, we're not going to talk any percentages here today, but most top listing agents tell me they're actually earning more now. Many buyer agents are saying, I'm actually earning more now because I'm not just hostage to what was being offered previously in the MLS. So if you want to succeed and win in this part of the conversation, I think very important that you study your forms and documents to where you know them inside and out, so you can very calmly and smoothly and simply take your buyer through this is your options. And I could say, DJ, you probably have heard, because see, you've got to remember, it was a big deal to us, but a lot of the consumers were paying no attention because at the time
Sure.
it wasn't relevant to them. So now today it's not in the news, so they don't know. So you say, there was something that happened, a year or so ago, and it changed the way real estate commissions are approached. And I want to just walk you through how it works and what are your options and what are the seller's options and how everything is negotiable. And if you can just very simply and confidently take them through those options. And DJ, I could say to you, if you prefer to negotiate for the seller to pay my fee, we can certainly do that. If the seller says no, then you can pay my fee. If you don't want to pay my fee, we can pass on that property and go pursue another where the seller may be willing to pay. It's all negotiable. Ultimately, you're not going to agree to anything that you are not perfectly comfortable agreeing to. So we just need to be calm. We need to take them through it and explain. And it's just not been that difficult. But I have noticed that many agents are avoiding the discussion about the part where they might need to pay you.
Sure.
Right. And so that's where you got to get a little more comfortable, work on that part a bit more.
I think you're right, and AI can help us with that too.
Sure.
But what I always remind our agents is that buyers were paying commissions before. They weren't cutting a check physically. They didn't see it, but it was there. It was all one pot of money, right? So it was coming out of the same pot. It was just being paid a different way. And so, getting more comfortable with that conversation. I think most agents are comfortable at this point, but this is why you can have a coach, because they can role play with you and they can actually help you perfect that pitch. I wanted to talk about something specific that you do with your coaches, which I think is really unique, and I think it's important. And we're now in a world where anybody can blow up on social media and start a coaching company because they have a nice following. But your coaches, you go a different way. So you hire people that are coaches that have had like 20 to 40 years of experience. And this is in a world where, a 28-year-old with very little possibly experience can start his or her own coaching company. So what does that do to the, or rather, why is it that you look for these coaches that have all of this experience versus somebody who's brand new?
Well, it would be simple if they were newer, or quite shockingly, there's a lot of coaching companies out there that they've never even sold real estate. There's actually one that's owned by someone that's never held a license that I know well. And that works if there is a curriculum. Right. So if you're teaching out of a textbook, so to speak, or you're following certain, quote, systems, if you're doing that, you can take someone and take them and train them up on that, and they could do a decent job with that. But because the majority of the people that we attract, they are the seasoned agents in that top 1%, many of them. Not that this is all we coach, the 1, 3, 5 million GCI, but definitely we coach what I lovingly call the more complicated. So if we're going to coach the more complicated and we're going to coach people in a custom way, that coach has to have so many layers of experience to call on, to know when to pivot, what to do, to say, I've walked that path. I made these mistakes. Don't make the mistakes I've made. So it just takes a different level. And I also don't hire coaches they need the money. I hire coaches that have been very successful or are successful at what they do. And they only want to coach a small amount of people because they're really passionate about it. if that passion isn't there, if it's just, I need a job, I don't want them. I probably have, I don't even know, Jessica, my VP of coaching, handles most of the filtering, but probably at least 5 to 10 people apply a month. And we almost never hire anyone because I'm just really clear on what it would take to fit in our world with the people that we coach. And it's hard to find, surprisingly hard to find.
If our listeners, and I want to speak directly to our listeners, they're listening right now. They recognize maybe a part of themselves in something that you've said. They know that they're stuck. And by the way, it's okay to be stuck. Everybody's
It
stuck.
is.
We're all stuck somewhere.
Yes, somewhere.
And yeah, and those problems don't go away the better we
Right.
do. They just get a different level of problem. And so every one of us is stuck somewhere in our business. I'm stuck. Debbie's stuck. Every one of us is stuck somewhere. And you're not exactly sure why you're stuck, or maybe you know what to do, but you can't get yourself to do it, or maybe you don't even know what to do. What's the self-diagnostic that a listener of ours should run in themselves before they talk to a coach?
Well, one thing that just came to my mind is I always ask people, what is it that you're avoiding?
Yeah.
And you just know in your heart that if you would just embrace it and do it, you would succeed. Maybe you don't know what the right approach or system should be, because a lot of what we work at, DJ, is not just, it's not motivation, because motivation is super fleeting, right? So if we can figure out the purpose, what is the purpose of why they want to achieve the goal that they've set? And then we look at their strengths and the opportunities. And then we look at inside of the world that they live in, what is some of the opportunities they're just very studiously avoiding? And how can we find a path to get them into that? Because, the brain it's funny. You talked about rejection. There is a whole thing where it's really psychological, where when you get rejected, it almost can feel like a physical assault, which is why people avoid lead generation so much. There's even many professors that have written books about this. So if you don't love it, you're normal. There was a book by these two professors that was called How to Overcome Fear of Prospecting and Self-Promotion. And at the beginning of the book, it said, everyone fears prospecting until your brain gets used to it. Right. So when I started at the age of 18, my broker gave me no choice. He said, I don't hire 18-year-olds. So if I'm going to hire you, you're going to dress like you're 30. You're going to do something about that hair. Get your dad to co-sign on a decent used car. So at least they might think you know what you're doing. And then he said, I am going to tell you exactly what to do every single hour of the day. If you don't do it, I'll just fire you. And nobody's going to hire you because you're 18. Right. And I'm coming out of college or high school thinking, well, I have no choice. I have to do what he says or he'll fire me. I thought I had to. Well, by the time I figured out I was an independent contractor and I could blow that off if I wanted to, it was too late. I already had the habit, right? And so how the transactions grew is I did not do what many agents often do, which is they start to get some success. They stop the lead gen. Yeah. And now they ride that seesaw, or they're stuck at that level. And he made me work on my skill. So as the skill improved, as I got a little older and got some deals under my belt, and I kept the same level of lead gen, well, now the deals started to grow and to skyrocket, and I had to hire an assistant. I was one of the first in our market to hire an assistant. This is going to really date me, but I have to tell you because it's kind of funny. I was one of the first to have a car phone, and it was not a cell phone. It was a car phone that carried around in a suitcase.
Sure, I remember.
And it was really heavy. Now later we graduated to one that was attached to the the dashboard. But I needed it because I'm running here and there. And a real estate magazine interviewed me, and on the front cover, I think I was 23 at the time, it said, "Car phone, tool or toy." How crazy is that, right, guys? How would we live without it right now? But so, yeah, I was embracing any innovation, any system. When CRMs first were born, Top Producer was one of the first out. Grabbed that right away, started using it, anything to make what I did more efficient, and then upgrading my personal admin, who they got not enough credit and not enough money. Looking back, shame on me, because they were wonderful.
Yeah, I have a sneaking suspicion, because you've been a top producer, you're a top coach, you work with top producers as well. I suspect if we took all your skills away, your experience and your knowledge about the market, but we took the habits that you crafted in with that first mentor saying, do
Mm-hmm.
this every day, and you went into a new market where you didn't have a database, a sphere of
Mm-hmm.
influence, you didn't know anyone, maybe you were 18 again,
Mm-hmm.
and if you were starting from scratch, what would you do right now, just out of curiosity?
Oh, well, the easiest thing that I did is hold open house,
Yeah.
you know, because I got to meet people, have conversations, practice interacting with people. There's a great agent here in Orange County. He owned a jewelry store. And so he's used to people coming in and, buying stuff from him at the counter. When he got into real estate, open house made sense to him. So his first year, he begged, borrowed open houses far and wide, ugly and nice, didn't care. All he
Right.
cared about is, can I get an open house and will they let me be there all day? He held an open house that first year 300 days out of the year
Wow.
from 9 to 5. He would invite the neighbors. He would sit at the open house and make his calls. He's like, hey, it's like my offsite office. He sold 44 homes his first year from open house. So sometimes we do overcomplicate it. What I think I did not do well enough, which I would want for everyone listening, because I am that high D driver personality. Once I got the taste of it, I would dial, circle dial. I would do expires. I would do some of the things that obviously right now we're a little restricted on because of the do not call laws, and so you all have to be mindful, of the rules in your area. But I would just hit it, hit it, hit it, hit it, hit it. What I did not do very well, though, that we encourage our clients to do, is get involved in the community. You know,
Yeah.
being into the community, giving back to the community, educating the community. I did have a geographic farm that I was very successful in, so I was part of the community in that way. But I do that much better now in this business than I did in that business, because I was young and immature, and my sphere had no money to buy houses, so it took me a while, to build a sphere.
Yeah, I agree that giving back is really important, and it creates all sorts of opportunities that are beyond the actual act of contribution.
Right.
Because if you're, and again, I wouldn't suggest to do this for this reason, but it is a thing to consider if you are giving back to your community, because that's where you sell real estate, which you
Hmm.
should care enough about the community to want to do that. You can also document the things you do, and that could become social media content,
For
not
sure.
necessarily to show, look at how great I am, but to show that you actually do care and you're actually willing to do something about that. People are so drawn to agents who are doing things to beautify their areas, or
Hmm.
to encourage small businesses to grow, or just to highlight small businesses even. And
Absolutely.
there's so much, and you're doing so much good, and people will see that, and you will benefit, and over time
Hmm.
you will get lots and lots of business, because people will see you as, well, that person really goes out and tries to help the community. So it's not the strategy of getting business why you should do it, but it certainly can help. And I'm a big fan of that. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. And even if you don't get any business from it, you're going to feel good because you're doing the right thing for the right
Yeah,
reason.
and you will. I mean, a great friend of ours and that we do business with, Adam Dow. He's a terrific agent in New Hampshire. His team does over 300 units a year. And if you look up Adam Dow, DOW, in New Hampshire, you're going to see a lot of videos about him sharing with agents how he built influencer relationships in his community. And some of them took years to build because he
Sure.
paid it forward first. But he always has his top 10 influencers that he's looking to build relationships with. He is a champion of small business, to your point. There's a downtown area. There's also like this craft, I don't know what you'd call it, like an emporium almost of artists. And he'll go there with his camera and he'll do social media postings for them, interact with them. And his comment to me was, Debbie, I'm not a cold prospector. I'm kind of a shy guy. However, if I can get to know the influencers, if I can do things to be supportive, if I can be supportive of my community, I can enjoy being in this business. But see, if someone years ago had told him the only way for you to be a success is you have to dial on the phone making cold calls every single day, you know what? He would have quit.
Right.
And what a shame, because he's an amazing guy, amazing agent. He just had to find his own unique path and how he would do things.
I interviewed an agent once. I just want to share this story. You'll love it. And our audience it maybe missed this episode. I interviewed an agent who used to be in the film industry, and he was in LA. And he was a production assistant and worked on various television and film shows and movies. Anyway, when he transitioned to real estate, I said, "Oh, you must have got your clients from all the people on the production side of entertainment that you worked with." And he goes, "No." He goes, "Actually, that's not where I got my business." And I said, "Oh, that's interesting." And he's now a top producer. And I said, "Well, how did you do it then?" He said, "Yeah, if I was smarter, I probably would have kept a database of all those people I worked with." He goes, "But that really isn't how I did it." He said, "What I did is," he said, "my passion is I love certain types of houses, and there's certain homes in my area that are just iconic. They're unbelievable.
Yes.
They're really cool. I get into them." And he says, "It's going to sound really silly, but it's what I do even today." He goes, "I will literally knock on the door and say, 'Hey, don't mean to bother you, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner. I really love this style of house. I know your house. I watch it. I know what would you do me the honor of just showing me around? I would love to see the inside of your house. I know you're not looking to sell or buy. That's okay. I just want to see if what's inside my head matches." And he's very genuine about this. He's not like trying to sell anything. He says, I got to see this. And so people, of course, want to show off their homes. And he more often than not, they say, "Sure, come on in." And then as he's leaving, he says, "Look, I don't know when you're looking to move. Whenever it is," he goes, "you have to please give me an opportunity to find you a buyer when you're looking to move, because I love this house as much as you do. I will find somebody for you."
Yeah.
And he said, "Please just keep my information." And he said, I've received so many listings
Of
from
course.
that. Of course, right? And it's so genuine. It's so wonderful. And, but if you were to maybe put it on paper, you'd say, "Oh, it sounds a little creepy, a little weird." It's like, no, he's not creepy and weird. He's genuine. And yeah, maybe there's some people that would be like, "No, I'm good." But he said most of the time people are super, he dresses in a nice suit. He doesn't,
Right.
he looks the part. And he said, this is how I get business. And I said, "That is amazing." I said, "I love that." And he said, "It's worked." He goes, "I've never asked for business. I'm not pushy." And I just loved that story. And I figured you would love that as well.
Yeah, it makes me think of one of our clients in Beverly Hills, Jeff Yarborough, and he has an absolute passion for mid-century modern homes and has just done this whole thing with that over the years. But what I heard was passion. And he also probably knows his product. the architects, the different locations and the nuances. So he's not just showing up green to that. He
Oh no.
speaks to that, I'm sure, with great expertise, and they can tell he's the real deal. But you can see, DJ, there's lots of ways to succeed in this business, which is what I really love about it. And also, as a kid getting into it because my parents couldn't afford to send me to college, I thought, also for a year, I'll make some money. I'll go to college, which I never made it because I just loved real estate. But I didn't have any advantage. I did not have any special skill. I guess an advantage would be a great coach mentor, in the broker that I had. I was a hard worker, but all of you guys are hard workers too, just your own way. If I could do it, truly, I just believe anyone who wants to succeed in this business can find their way and find their path.
Well, I want to remind everyone that Debbie has very generously offered all of our listeners and viewers an opportunity to have for free a negotiation course. Go to the listing description and find that link, fill out the form. She will and her team will send that over to you. And Debbie, if any one of our audience would like to talk to one of your coaches, and by the way, if you don't have a coach, you need one. Look, I need one. We all need one. And if they wanted to do that, what's the best way they should reach out to you?
They can email me direct. As I mentioned, I'm very involved with every client, Debbie@forwardcoaching.com. And by the way, one other piece we didn't mention that I feel is the magic here, it is the coaches, and it also is my ability to match make. So anyone that has an interest in joining coaching, the reason they only speak to me, my couple of great guys, Gary and Ron, help appointments set for me and get them in my schedule and get the proper paperwork completed. But they only speak to me because then I can decide which coach has the right skill set, the right personality fit. Like I don't need them to be friends, but I do feel there needs to be a chemistry. And I think some people have had a bad experience with coaching when it was a poor match. And they're like, I'm not getting anything out of this. So I guarantee the match. I introduce them to the coach, complimentary meeting. If it's not a fit, they come back to me. We do it again. I don't think I've had to rematch for 3 years, so I'm pretty good at it. and I think all of that, the custom, the terrific coaches, the careful matching, and the passion we have for it, that's why we don't even ask our clients to sign a contract. I don't need it. I just don't believe in it. I think if they really want the help, they're going to do the work. And we need to show up every month and re-earn that right to continue, to have the honor to work with them.
I love that. And so anyone who is interested in forward coaching, please reach out to them. We'll have a link to their website. And of course, please download the negotiation course, which very generously provided by them to you at no cost. I have a homework assignment for everybody as we get to the end of this episode. And I want you to do this before our next episode. And it's only going to take 15 minutes, but it's a good exercise. And I'm going to do it along with you. So I want you to answer 3 questions on paper, not in your head. Literally put this on paper. The first one: what is the result I want most in my business right now? So what is the result I want most in my business? That's the first question. Second question is, what have I tried that hasn't worked? And this includes if you aren't able to get yourself to do the thing that you wish that you were doing. So even if you tried to prospect and you're not prospecting, that counts. So what have I tried that isn't working? And then the third question is, and this is a Debbie question, what am I avoiding that I already know I should be doing? What am I avoiding? So the 3 questions: what's the result I want most? What have I tried that isn't working? And third is, what am I avoiding? That third answer is usually where the real work starts.
Sure.
And you can start on that journey today. Debbie's team will help you. They will help you. There is no shame in being honest about where you're struggling. We all struggle. We
That's
all
right.
having challenges. We all need coaches. I wish we could do it all ourselves. It would make I wish I didn't need a personal trainer at the gym. That would be
Wouldn't that
lovely.
be nice?
I'd save a lot
I
of
don't
money,
think
but
I'd get out of bed.
I wouldn't get out of that. Is exactly. I would love to tell you that I don't need it because I'll just go out of bed and go to the gym. I will not. So I have to keep making money so I can pay my coach so that she can tell me to do the push-ups I already know I need to do. But here's the funny thing about it. I actually do the push-ups because I have a coach. So if you are somebody that knows they need to be prospecting more or calling your clients more, and that's most of us, we fall in that category, and you're not doing it, you're not abnormal. Even
That's
top
right.
producers struggle with this too. And a coach could be the way that you actually get yourself to do it. Yeah, it costs money, but if you do the result, if you do the habit, you'll get the result. And Debbie is living proof of this. She was doing it at 18 years old in between classes and not even had any business selling real estate. And she was prospecting 4 to 5 hours a day. And guess what? She built a successful career very quickly, and then now has gone on to teach others how to do the same thing. So Debbie DeGrote has been our guest today. Forward Coaching is her company. We will have links to all of her resources on our website, and we appreciate Debbie. Download the negotiation course for free. Debbie, we appreciate you, and we want to thank you on behalf of our audience for spending an hour with us, telling our audience what all about your coaching program and maybe what they should consider doing to help drive their business forward. And on behalf of Debbie and myself, we thank the audience for sticking around to the end. We appreciate you. Please, the best way to help us grow is tell a friend. Think of one other realtor that you know that could benefit from hearing this conversation with Debbie. Shoot them over a link. It means a lot to me, helps us out, and it really helps our sponsors out too. So we appreciate our sponsors, and we appreciate you for spreading the word. So thank you for that. Leave us a review wherever you're listening to us on. That helps us too. And we will see everybody on the next episode. Thanks, Debbie.
Thank you, DJ. Bye-bye, guys.